Philanthropy Report that we've done in collaboration with Dasra. Our past reports have focused on the landscape of philanthropy in India, the role of the next generation giver, and this year we have focused on the topic of impact and looking at giving in India through the topic of impact. Impact is an incredibly important topic in the India philanthropy system. It needs to be at the center of the conversation between donors and the philanthropist as we think about the role of philanthropy. There's a few things that we found in our conversation with both donors and NGOs when it comes to impact in India. The first thing is actually there's a general amount of satisfaction. Donors are generally satisfied with the work that their NGOs and their donee organizations are doing, and the NGOs are relatively satisfied with the impact they're having. But as you dig underneath that, what you actually find there's a number of disconnects between the parties in terms of how they measure impact, whether it's on a quantity or quality basis, whether it's on how they communicate around impact in India. And what I mean by that is, what we found eventually is that less than 2 in 10 donors have a regular dialogue with their NGOs or organizations that they give to about impact. So there's actually a pretty profound disconnect in terms of the frequency of conversation around impact. 2, there's actually quite a difference between a sophisticated and a more conventional donor on how they define impact, whether it's longer term or shorter term, whether it's a quantitative measure or a qualitative measure. The third thing we found is actually measuring impact can be complex and it can be an expensive process. And in fact, what happens is there are some sectors in India, like education and healthcare, where impact can be much more readily measured because it has quantifiable and shorter term type metrics that you can focus on. Versus there are other sectors like women's rights and some other social change where actually it's very difficult to measure quantitative change and measure impact. And in many ways, those sectors get left behind when it comes to donor dollars. And as we've seen, most donor rupees in India actually go to education. They go to healthcare, those sectors that are more easily measured. And so where this leads us to is when we spoke to our donors and high net worth individuals who would be donors, they said if the conversation on impact was more transparent, if it were more easily measured and communicated, they actually would give more. Actually, 26% say would give more. So if impact were made a center of the conversation, it would actually have quite a profound impact on the philanthropic ecosystem in India, not only in terms of the amount of money that flows into the system, but also in terms of the organization building that a dialogue around impact forces in India.